Welcome to another round of the With Just 15 Defeats boxing show with myself, Teekosey. We're talking heavyweight boxing once again, and we're going to be having a debate today as to whether heavyweight legend Wladimir Klitschko should retire. So we all know that in the recent weeks he lost his titles in a close fight with Britain's Tyson Fury. Not a very exciting fight. We've discussed this in a previous show, so please go back and watch that round, just to get a feeling of my general feelings for how that fight went and why I believe that was a relatively close fight. Against many people think it was a bit of a whitewash, and that Klitschko got completely schooled, which I do not totally agree with. So Wladimir Klitschko, should he retire? He's been a world champion for over 10 years. He's fought all kinds of opposition, and to be perfectly honest, he's schooled almost every single opponent. He's knocked out and dispatched many of them. Some of them he's taken the full rounds, but he's savagely beaten them and taken usually 12 or 11 of those rounds. So what you need to appreciate is that he's been at the top and he has sustained it. How many others have done that? Very few have done that. Very few in boxing. Many boxers slip. They'll have an off night. A lot come back, revenge their defeats. This guy, since he won that world title, he's managed to stay on top and be the number one, incomparable to the greats in other sports, your Federers and your Messis, etc. And he stayed there until he was kicked off his pedestal by Tyson Fury. You have to appreciate that whilst the division's been relatively weak in this era, i.e. the last 15 to 20 years, he hasn't avoided anyone of any note. Now there's a few people that he could have fought, but he probably would have beat them. Because of his brother, they could have fought his brother, and that would have been an exciting fight. And some people would say that he probably would have been knocked out. But then again, he might have been able to establish his position in that fight and take it the distance. We'll never know, but it would have been an exciting fight. But because of his brother was fighting some of the opponents that Wladimir could have fought. So it reduced the pool of fighters that he could fight, because many of them aren't going to fight both of them. Once they've been defeated, they're kind of out of the picture, apart from one or two like Samuel Peter, who got his ass kicked by both. But you've got people like old Holyfield, old Ruiz, that Wladimir could have fought, and as I say, would have probably beaten both of them quite convincingly at the sort of time that they probably would have been matched up against each other. He could have also gone in the ring with Valuev. Valuev, pretty poor boxer, but he was a world champion, and he was up there for a considerable period of time. He lost to Chagiyev and also to David Haye, and that finished him off. But I've always thought that Valuev versus Wladimir would have been a very interesting matchup, mostly due to the size. And this is kind of the problem we had with the Tyson Fury fight. It was the size that probably caused him most of the issue. Okay, so because of that, because he's had such a great career, he probably should retire. He's had this fantastic career. He's definitely going to go down as a great because of all of the title defences that he had, all of the wins. But the unfortunate thing for him is that he didn't really have many standout bouts. So in 10, 15, 20 years, is Wladimir Klitschko going to be remembered? The answer is probably not. Probably not. We're still going to be talking about the greats of the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, rather than this guy that went on an incredible run. So we're all thinking that the time is over. Both Klitschkos are now possibly out of the picture, and it's now for the new breed. Let's see what others have got to offer. But then against that, should he keep going? He has been this great. Can he avenge that defeat to Tyson Fury? Tyson Fury hasn't had half the fights that Wladimir Klitschko has had. And in another debate, you could say, can you imagine Tyson Fury going 10 years undefeated as a champion? Possibly. We could be here in 10 years' time talking about Tyson Fury, saying he's retired undefeated with 43 fights. He's knocked out every single opponent. He's been the greatest heavyweight of all time. We could be saying that. That would be unbelievable. But let's go back to Klitschko. Can Klitschko beat Fury in a rematch? The answer is yes, he can. He can actually beat him. Will he? Who knows? For me, the more I think about it, the more I think it was the height and it was the distance that caused Wladimir the issues in their fight. He wasn't that comfortable. He wasn't that comfortable with the distance. He just couldn't work it out. He could not work it out because he's always been fighting smaller guys. So he was always able to have that confidence that he was going to be able to judge the distance and avoid shots coming back and do enough damage to his opponent to win pretty much every round. This wasn't the case, and it really, really shook him up, and he just didn't know. He just didn't know what to do. So I think with time, a lot more preparation, and the experience of the first fight, it's possible that he could get to a position where he believes that he can win that fight, he can avenge it, and he can win it. And if he was to avenge it, that's great. He could then we could be talking about retirement. But then again, if he was to win the fight convincingly, he'd want to continue. I heard something some time ago, the fact that he wanted to compete in the Olympics next year. I don't know whether they've changed the rulings on that yet, or whether they're actually going to do that. But it was something he wanted to. If he has a couple more defeats, he's probably not going to be in position to do that. It would be a bit lame for him to go into a tournament such as the Olympics with a number of defeats, as going in as a loser. It would pretty much make a mockery of the whole situation. But the other thing you've got to think about is with Wladimir Klitschko, he's in fantastic shape. He's in fantastic shape. He's not a boxer that's let himself go in any respect. He still seems as sharp as a button when you hear him in pre-fight interviews and post-fight interviews. He is as sharp as a button. He's super intelligent. He's in fantastic shape. And the most important thing is he doesn't need the money. As you can imagine, he's multi-millionaire. The money he makes from these German pay-per-view deals, the worldwide deals, and all the sponsorship and all the wide range of businesses that he must have. He just does not need that money. He's not in a position where you've got other guys that have kind of getting to that end of their career and they need that big fight to kind of give them the payday to sustain the life that they're living, and they're prepared to take a knockout. This guy doesn't need that. So if he goes into that fight wanting to avenge it, it's because he really wants it. He is passionate. He's still got his mojo to be a world champion. So I think on that basis, really, my point of view, my opinion is that Wladimir Klitschko should not retire. I think he should maintain his position as a professional athlete, a professional boxer, and go into a rematch with Tyson Fury and see where that takes him. He might end up losing again. He might win. But give it a go, and if he was to win, he sustains his legacy even further. But if he was to lose to Tyson Fury, then fair enough. Hold your hands up and say, I was beaten by the better man again, and my time has come. So thanks for listening to that show. and move on to the next one, which we'll be having very, very shortly. And thanks for listening to With Just 15 Defeats.